I have to record these and I just came on and recorded. I apologize. So the average lifespan, as we mentioned, of the heart. So let's talk about how the heart works. Blood flows into the heart, blood that is not oxygenated. So oxygen poor blood comes in from the supravena cava and the inferior vena cava. So the below our body and above our body comes in to the right atrium through the right ventricle and is pumped out through the pulmonary artery into our lungs. And into our lungs, where our blood is oxygenated, comes back in through the pulmonary vein, through the left atrium, down through the left ventricle, and is pumped out to the rest of our to our body in a and into our bloodstream through the aortic valve. So a heart attack will happen when a vessel supplying the heart is blocked, and that heart can't get enough of its oxygen into the heart and out into our bloodstream. And obviously, then if the heart doesn't have oxygen, it'll die, and hence that's what causes us to then obviously not be healthy and obviously have a risk factor for death and heart disease. What is cardiovascular disease? It is a very serious health condition that keeps the heart or blood vessels from working properly. How do you get heart disease? Well, or how do you get cardiovascular disease? Although some people are born with it, most of us, a big majority of us, develop it as a result of a poor lifestyle, such as eating unhealthy foods, not getting enough exercise, or using tobacco. And one of the ways that we can keep ourselves healthy and understanding our risk of heart disease is looking at our numbers. So again, another poll I have for you. And again, I don't know who's saying what. I want to know how many of us know, or how many of you do know your cholesterol levels. And then that way I can kind of gauge where we all are in our heart knowledge. Good. I love to see that. Great. Looks like a majority of you. I'm going to need a few more seconds to see if anyone else would like to participate. And you may know them and you may not remember them. That's fine. You'd remember them if they weren't good, I bet. Let's end that polling. Share the results. So awesome. About 60%, 65% of you know your numbers. That is really important. And I'm going to explain to you why it's important. So when I first got my cholesterol levels, I just assumed LDL was a good number, right? L is low. Don't you always want things low? And H was high, which meant bad. But of course, it's the opposite. So the LDL on the left-hand side, you'll see we have a normal artery, one that has great blood flowing. There's no clogging. There's nothing going on there. It's moving through, the blood's moving very steadily through that artery. Over here, we have an artery that is narrowing. So it's narrowing because it has a lot, as you can see, these yellow balls are the bad cholesterol. And what that is that when that cholesterol is high, that LDL is high, it develops plaque, and plaque hardens and gets really gooey and gunks up the side of your arteries. And that obviously, if there's all that gunk and that plaque over time actually hardens, it gets really, really hard. And those arteries then stiffen, so they can't pump the blood through. They can't, and the blood is blocked. But what HDL is, the blue little guys, they're the vacuum cleaner. So they're great. They come in, the more you have, and they just sweep up all that plaque and all that gunk, and they deliver it to your liver, and your liver expels it from your body, and then therefore it reduces your risk of heart disease. So how do we keep our cholesterol in check, which is obviously very important to keep our heart healthy? Well, before we even do that, I apologize. Let's look at these numbers. So all of you that know your numbers, let's look at total cholesterol, which is your LDL and your HDL. Your triglycerides are a type of fat that is found in your blood. And that is something to be aware of. But for what we're showing right here, we're talking about looking at your LDL and HDL combined. If it's less than 200, you're great. If you are in the 200 to 239 range, you're a borderline high and need to really pay attention to that. And then obviously, if you're over the 250, the 240, you are in a high risk. Oh, there's a great question. Can those hardened arteries return to normal based on lifestyle changes? Or are they forever damaged? I'm going to get into that. The heart can get healthy, and yes, those numbers can come down through medication and through a lifestyle change. And yes, you will reduce. They won't go back to what they were before. My understanding is that will take as long as those HDL comes in, it will help reduce the plaque that is building up in your arteries. And that's a great question. But nothing is irreversible. Totally. I shouldn't say that. And when it comes to your heart, there are things you can do. I don't want you to think that, oh, my high cholesterol or my blood vessels are all hardened, so I'm just going to give up. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to educate. We're here to tell you there is a way for you to get back to a healthy heart. So, of course, we often talk about, we talk about eating well. And the American Heart Association recommends for a healthy diet that we eat 5 cups of fruits or vegetables per day. That's not canned, as my husband would love, canned fruit, or added sugars into drinks, or fruits that have added sugars. A lot of times we see those little peach cups at the grocery store, or peaches in a can. They are laden with sugars. We're talking about fruit that is either frozen or obviously comes fresh from the store. You do want to get your whole wheat, your bulgur, your oatmeal. We don't want that white flour that is high in sugar. We're trying to get 3.5, 4 ounces of grains a day. The fish is a hard one. I understand 2 to 3 servings of fish a week. I do tuna a lot, or salmon is great. The oily fishes that have those omega-3 fatty acids, you can also take a supplement, which I do as well. The salmon, again, a great, it's an awesome way to get those fatty. Sorry, guys. I don't know what I just pressed. There we go. Sorry about that. That is a great way for you to get your omega-3s. Mackerel, trout, herring, if you love those, good for you. That's awesome. And also the processed sugars. That is really what we need to stay away from. Under 400 calories of added sugar a week. That's a hard one, but try and keep those in check. And the other one that is really important for us, as if we have heart disease or at risk of heart disease, is sodium. The average American gets 3,400 grams of sodium in a day, or milligrams of sodium in a day. And we're recommended less than 1,500. I bring this up today because it's so important to keep our heart healthy by reducing our salt intake. And you would be shocked at what you see on the back of any of the cans or any processed food you're buying, which hopefully we're reducing those. And look at the sodium. I know we've been trained to look at the fat. We've been trained to look at the protein. We've been trained to look at the carbohydrates. Well, let's take a look at the sodium. Sodium is in things that you wouldn't even think of. So just be aware of it, pay attention to it, and know that it is something to keep a track of. The second thing we want to keep track of, and we talk about a lot, is be active. Why do we want to be active? Well, it helps in weight loss, as we know. It does increase the HDL. In fact, one of my clients, one of the reasons she works out often is to keep her cholesterol in check and not to have to take as much medication. It also decreases your blood pressure. And we talk about how. Well, that goal is, you've heard me talk ad nauseum, 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise a week. Again, I have a poll here that I want to ask you because I want to go into this. Well, I'm just going to ask you because I'd like to know. Why do I always have such a problem? There we go. I'm going to give you another poll, and I want to know, because we spoke about this in one of, I think it was motivation. Yes, last month's webinar on your heart rate when you're exercising. I want to know how many of you have been able to figure out, good, if you've had a chance to calculate this. And if you haven't, I'm going to ask you to do so right here, right now. In fact, I'm going to grab my phone and I'll give you an example. Great. Give you 30 seconds. Well, now you're looking at it, so now you can calculate it. Don't cheat. Really cheat yourself. All right, I'm going to end the polling. Here we go. Share results. This is something that I am so glad you're honest. I'm glad that you are telling me whether you know it or not. Many of us do, many of us don't. We just run out and exercise and don't know how hard we're exercising, and therefore putting a little good stress on our heart. So here we go. Target heart rate. I'm going to do mine right here. So it is 220. This is just one way. You could Google different ways to do it. But this is a tried and true way to at least give you some sense. 220 minus my age, I'm 55. So that's 165. I could do that in my head. That is my maximum heart rate. So when I'm at 165, I'm not talking to anyone. I can maybe do it for 30 seconds before I am gassed. I don't want to do that every day. I don't want to do that rarely. So if I want to be at about a moderate intensity of exercise, I would say I'd be at about 50 to 60% of my heart rate, right? Well, that's going to be about 82. My heart rate should be about 83 beats per minute. Okay. And if I want to go higher and I want to be at a place where I'm in an anaerobic state, I would go to 75, 80% of my max heart rate. So as we talk about being active, we've talked about ways to motivate. I've talked about ways to eat healthy. I want you to understand and all know this, there is no magic bullet. I wish I had one. There's no only one way to do it. There's only one way for you to do it and what works for you. I want you to, and you don't have to employ the same strategy your friend is. You need to figure out what works for you. And what's most important is that you exercise regularly. And one way, and I know I've talked about this, but again, I'm going to tell you again, the one way to do it and make it easier for you is to make it a part of your daily routine. You brush your teeth every day, I hope. You take a shower, you eat your breakfast, you do these things. So the way to make exercise a part of your daily life is to make it one of those rituals that you do for personal hygiene. And the question that was asked about whether you can reduce your, how happy and healthy your heart is there is a study done by the National Institute of Health that studied 60 middle-aged men and women, their average age was 53, who had not previously exercised on a regular basis. And they used a heart catheter, which you may or may not know, to measure the flexibility, which is what we want. We don't want rigidity in that heart and in those vessels. They measured the flexibility, or what they call youthfulness of the heart after 2 years of exercise training. And the results were quite compelling and showed that it is possible to reverse some of the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle if you commit to an exercise routine in your late age. So it is not lost. It has been shown to reverse some of the damage that can be done to a sedentary lifestyle early in your life. When a family history, yes, family history happens, and all you can do with the family history of high cholesterol is to manage it and do what you can do, and then obviously take your medication. Some of us, you can incorporate vigorous exercise when you have arthritis or slip discs, because there are ways to either bike, there are ways to get your heart rate up. As a trainer, I do have clients who have bad backs, who have bad shoulders. There are ways for you to get that exercise in, stationary bike. There are ways to, even when you're walking, to try and increase your heart rate. Lifting weights can increase your heart rate, even doing squats quickly. There are ways to do it as long as the pain is managed. Obviously, we don't want people exercising in pain. Walking, just start. So now you know your maximum heart rate. You have that in target. Write it down. Keep it in mind. Maintaining a healthy weight is obviously another way to reduce our heart disease. impact or heart disease risk. Your body mass index is a measurement of your weight with respect to your height. And with each increase, 5-unit increase of that percentage, you increase your heart disease risk by 30%. So the higher your BMI, the higher your risk of heart disease. So this is a calculation. I'll do it for me. I don't mind. I am 6 feet tall. No, I wish I was. I'm 64 inches tall and shrinking. So and I weigh 130 pounds. So here we go. 130 pounds divided by 64 inches is 2.03. I divide that again by 64 inches, correct? Yep. And then I times it by 703. Let's hope I'm in a good BMI. I'm at 22.3. So yes, I am in a healthy BMI. And I do calculate this I can calculate it knowing my obviously if I shrink and my weight goes up, that's a problem. So keep that in mind. We need to maintain a healthy weight for our heart and also for our joints, but we're talking about our heart today. Manage your blood pressure. We do that by the healthy diet, which is the DASH diet we've talked about, as well as referring to the slide I gave you on eating well, which again, you will get a one-pager that has this information on it. These slides have been copied onto that one-pager. We talked, the DASH diet does talk a lot about reducing your sodium, which is obviously the next check. Limit your alcohol intake, cut back on caffeine, and reduce stress. These are the ways that we can manage our blood pressure. So I also want to know, no, I already did my polls. I thought I had another poll. Oh, well. So let's talk about understanding your numbers. Again, it's like the cholesterol levels. We get these blood pressure levels and think, okay, I know that a 120/80 is good, but what the heck does that mean? Blood pressure is what blood pressure is it's needed in order to survive and function properly. Your tissues and organs need that oxygenated blood that comes from the lungs into the heart and goes into our circulatory system and is carried throughout the body. That oxygen is needed to keep ourselves alive. And when the heart beats, it creates that pressure and pushes the blood through the network of all of our blood vessels and arteries and veins and capillaries. And this is what is called blood pressure. And it's the result of two forces. The first force is a systolic blood pressure. And that occurs when the blood pumps out of the heart and into the arteries as part of the circulatory system. So that's what's pushing the blood out. Diastolic, the second force, is created as the heart rests between heartbeats. And these two are what create your heart rate. And the primary way that high blood pressure can cause harm to your heart is by increasing the workload of the heart vessels, making them work harder and less efficiently. And when you lower your blood pressure, you lower your risk of stroke, makes sense, heart attack, and heart failure. So the top number is your systolic and the second is your diastolic. And as you can see by these numbers, again, this is on the one pager. You can keep it as a reference. 120/80 is normal. Elevated is the 120 to 129 for diastolic, and 80 still the resting. The systolic is what is getting higher, and as that gets higher, that means your heart is pumping harder. The heart's having to pump harder. And so these numbers are, again, important to keep in mind. Stop smoking. And now those horrible e-cigarettes have made their entry into our environment. No smoking's good for you. I think we all know that. Using smokeless tobacco as well. These are all some of the worst things you can do for your body. It contains nicotine, addictive substances, as we know. And the reason they contain these, it gives us users a pleasant feeling. And smokeless tobacco is not a safe alternative to smoking. I have teenage boys, believe me, I've had this discussion time and time again. Smoking causes plaque to form in the blood vessels. It reduces your HDL, your good cholesterol. Smokers who have a heart attack are more likely to die and die suddenly within an hour. It puts women who smoke at a much higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease. and using any tobacco products damages nearly every organ in your body and can cause heart disease and cancer. So have I scared you enough? Here we go. Look at what's in cancer. I mean, in tobacco. I just saw this and it was like, ooh. Look at these chemicals. Acetone, that's a nail polish remover. Antifreeze, rocket fuel, paint thinner. Look at these. Arsenic, once used in rat poisoning. So as you can see, formaldehyde. Yeah, this is not good stuff. So we don't want to be ingesting that and smoking that. And the sixth and final thing that you can do to manage your, keep your heart healthy is see your doctor and keep a record of your numbers. You need to be your best and your best advocate for yourself. You need to ask your doctor, never walk out of a physical without knowing these numbers. Make sure you get your blood work, you get an EKG, you ask about your stress test. And for those women over 50, you get that bone density. The problem is that Dr. Joff, who's the NIH heart disease expert, has said the sad truth is that the vast majority of us have heart disease and we don't know it. Blood pressure and cholesterol levels can provide early signs, and people should see their doctors, find out these numbers, and if needed, take medication. So we talked about the 6 steps to a healthy heart. Eat well, get active, maintain a healthy weight, manage your blood pressure, stop smoking, and see your doctor. I want to talk to you a little bit about getting active before I head on. I have another couple little more slides I want to share with you, but something I didn't talk about on the get active slide was I heard a gentleman phrase it this way when it comes to exercise. You can either suffer now or suffer later. And I know that's maybe a little harsh, but what that meant to me is that we can suffer now, meaning I've told you, I wake up in the morning and don't want to go and exercise every day, but I do it because I know I'm going to be healthier. I know that I'll be able to play with my grandchildren. I'll be able to play golf, God willing, if the snow melts, and walk and exercise or run or do whatever it is that I like to do to keep myself living my best life. It'll also help me be able to live alone or live independently longer. So if we don't suffer now, we will suffer later by not being able to do the things we enjoy. Okay, public service announcement has ended. And we talked about stress. Stress is one of the ways that we can cause our blood pressure to go up. And here we're talking about self-care is not selfish. And in this environment, we really need to be cognizant of that. We need to manage that stress so that our health stays healthy, so that stress doesn't negatively affect our health until we get sick. Self-care isn't selfish and it's not superficial. And it's not just about taking manis and petties. It's about really doing some cognitive restructuring and reframing, quieting that inner toxic critic, practicing self-compassion, lifestyle medicine, making sure you get that sleep, nutrition, hydration, exercise, community, tough one now, but do your best spending time with the loved ones and finding a support system. Leisure and fun, find that time to have fun. Life is too short. Have some fun, get lost reading, get lost doing something you enjoy, and definitely try and find that time for quiet space away from our distractions, from any of the noise that we can it's so hard in this world. I'm struggling with that too. Getting away from the screens, getting away from all the duties, especially when we live in the house and work in the house and teach in the house. Making exercise fun is so great, and being competitive. I mean, be competitive with your family. Make it fun. There is no reason to not have fun in our world and reduce that stress. You guys have any questions, shoot them into the chat. I know people are doing that right now, and I really appreciate that. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call or email me. And you will be getting a one-pager. We will be sending that out tomorrow to all of our our wellness champions. And again, and welcome next month, we will be talking about colorectal cancer. Exciting. I'll make it fun. That is our March webinar, and look out for information on that as well. And you will, oh, somebody asked before you hang up, how you will get these slides. Many of these slides, the ones that have the numbers on your cholesterol levels that are appropriate, your BMI, this is all summarized in the one pager. And if that one pager is not efficient, please let me know and I'll send you the deck. It's not a problem. All right, guys, have a great day and thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm still here. Oh, do I offer a booklet? No, I don't have a booklet. Hillary, how do I get the one, the aged one? Oh, thanks, Jim. The aged one. Which one is the aged one? I'm trying to think which the aged one is. Hillary, go ahead and email me at kgradyborslow or kgrady@borslow.com or call me. I'm here right now and I'm happy to help. Thanks, guys.